Mexico has many aspects of life that are good and many more that are bad. We always have food on the table, which we are very fortunate that we have this because there are many more people that don't have these privileges. Some people have to turn to drugs, violence, and crime to survive. I live in a town that has news every day, from stealing to murder. It was never safe, nor the typical life that kids should be living, but that's all we got. Bang bang, I suddenly hear gunshots in the distance. I see people running into the streets. This is very common. Sometimes there's over 55 homicides in a day. Antonio, my dad yells, get down. I'm bent down. My hands are wrapped around my knees, shaking, frightened of what might happen next. Screams and cries from my family filled my head. I hear one last bullet shot and see my dad fall to the ground, the blood oozing out of his head onto the stone floor, turning it red. I was scared. I couldn't move, and all I could see was a man rummaging my house. I wake up to a woman switching positions next to me, realizing that I was just remembering why we had to leave our beloved country, Mexico. Racing across the landscape, shrubs surrounding, and a graceful hawk gliding above the bus. Antonio, a 12-year-old boy, pulls away from the window that leads him away from his own country of Mexico to the United States. Peering around his seats, he notices his 9-year-old sister, Veronica, sitting next to his mother in front of him. Veronica was reading a book, and her mother was getting her papers ready to come to the United States. But this wasn't true. Antonio opens his eyes and snaps back to reality.
What's happening? I asked my mother. I could see the blood rushing through her body. She couldn't calm down. All I know for now is that we need to get out of here. She grabbed my sister and held her tight. Bang, bang. I'm not leaving until I get my money. I flinched as the man spoke. His deep voice was sharp like a knife with meaning in his words. We all knew he wasn't leaving anytime soon. We will leave by tomorrow morning, my mother whispered. The next part to us. He should be gone by then. What if he isn't? What will we do then? I couldn't help but ask. Then we will find. Then we will find a way out. In conclusion of the conversation, my mom laid down with my sister and fell asleep. I woke up there. I found my mother face to face with a gunned man holding my uncle by the shirt. I knew who it was. Jose. He was a friend of my uncle's. At least that's what my mother would say. But I knew it was just another drug lord. He starts shouting at her something about my uncle not paying up. I've heard of this from my friends before, and remembered them saying it was never good. I rushed to my baby sister's room and grabbed her by the hand, along with a stuffed animal. Start running to the basement door. As I went down the flight of stairs, I heard gunshots, and warm tears started to fall down my cheek. I wiped them away and got to the bunker. I put in the code, and Veronica started to cry. I shushed her while I locked the bunker behind us. More gunshots. I crawled to a corner and waited for the intruder to go away. Bang, bang. I was pretty sure it was my mom pounding on the door, but I was hesitant of who it might truly be. I was reluctant, yet I still found myself standing up and once again putting in the code. I slowly opened the door, peered through. It was my mother. I quickly rushed her through and slammed it behind me.
The bus runs down the road towards the Mexican refugee camp. We haven't arrived just yet, but we stop at a gas station and they take us out of the bus. They ask us many different questions about where we are from and what made us leave our country. After this, we continued on our way with another 3-day travel in the old rusty white bus. When we arrived, we came off the bus and then we were left alone with just a couple random people. I didn't know if they were the ones to help us, yet after a couple minutes they started walking. We asked many questions in Spanish, but they obviously didn't understand. This made it tough because we couldn't understand what they were saying either, but we knew we were in good hands when they smiled at us in front of a small tent. Once we got settled, I decided I wanted to stay with my mom at all times, for I had felt as though everything I loved had been lost. First it was my father that was shot and lost his life from something so stupid. Next was my uncle, and I finally lost all of my belongings. Now all I had left was a small bag of clothes, my book Huckleberry Finn, and my favorite stuffed animal. That night I prayed it would be okay if we ever got to the United States. Fast forward 2 months later. I wake up and begin to start my normal routine. I grab my supplies and walk to the communal bathroom. But as I squeeze the white toothpaste onto my shabby flared toothbrush, I faintly hear cheering. This was not normal for a Saturday. I drop my toothbrush and I rush outside to see what the commotion is. So running outside of the bathroom, I see my sister rushing towards me. I run up to her asking what's wrong. Why are you running? Has something happened? Where's Mother? No, Antonio, it's the best news ever. Well, what is it? I pulled her to a halt in front of me. I could feel the worry crossing my eyes. We're on the list. I sat there dazzled by the good news. I just couldn't believe my ears. We were finally getting out of this place. We were finally going to America. We would be safe. I couldn't help but be ecstatic. I turned to her again. Then where's Mother? She's waiting for us at her tent. I found myself smile again. She's already started packing. When are we leaving? Tomorrow, Antonio, tomorrow. My heart was pounding. Shaking but still excited, I ran her back to the tent to find my mother frantically packing the extra food we had stolen. After standing there for a couple of minutes, she breathes and speaks quietly. I hope you're excited. Yes, very, Mother. I can imagine myself now jumping up and down, giddy as all could be. I start to smile, but when my mother turns, she does not return the kind gesture. Mother, what's wrong? Nothing. I just can't help but to think of your father in this time and how happy he would be. Tears start to fall from her eyes. I walk over to her and begin to hug her. She hugs me back and I pull my sister into a hug with us. We ended up staying there the whole day trying to calm each other down. And once we did stop, I had trouble falling asleep. Yet the thought of going to America helped me relax, something I wasn't able to do for a while. Next morning, I woke up to my mother finishing packing everything in the tent. It might not have been much, but we weren't sure even if we were allowed to bring all of it. We gathered with the group of people that's named on the list as well as ours outside. Each person was able to bring a small bag filled with their most valuable things. My mom ended up having to empty out half of the food supply. I was very anxious about it, but soon we got on the bus and started the journey to America. Once the bus had started and everyone was on, we started our journey on the long road with dirt roads. My head bobbing back and forth, leaning side to side, and my eyes slowly closing and opening. I had to be at least 6 hours until my mom told us that we had 5 minutes left. I quickly sat up on my seat and looked out the window to find tall buildings out as far as the eye can see. Then a voice came from somewhere ahead. All right, everyone, we will be arriving at our destination, but please stay seated until we are at a complete stop. After the woman finished, I found I wasn't the only one moving around excitedly. My sister sat up from her seat near the window, and her eyes automatically widened. She then turned to me in disbelief. Antonio, we're really here. We're really going to be safe. She smiled at me, and I smiled back. Yes, Veronica, we are here, and we will be safe. As the bus halted, people stood up and gathered their small bags of belongings. I, doing the same, grabbed my mom and sister's hand, making sure that we wouldn't lose each other in the crowd of people. Once we stepped off the bus, we could see many people awaiting our arrival. They had names on the boards, and they followed the group of big people. Through the many systems, we had found a couple of books, American language, but once we exited and read our guide, nothing could prepare us. She seemed nice. I glanced down and saw a name tag with the name Alice on it. ¿Eres nuestra guía de America? The look on her face was confusion. Then she called someone else over. Repeat yourself. Now it was my turn to look confused. ¿Qué? The man she had called over started speaking nearly fluent in Spanish. Repite tu miso. Eres nuestra guía de America. Sí. The man then explained to Alice what had happened, and after understanding, she smiled. She then looked at us again and made a motion to follow her. My mother told us to do as we were told, so we did. Along the lady, we saw other immigrants, all in the same predicament as us, language barrier. The lady halted, almost causing me to ram into her, and turned around with the books and papers in her hand, which she handed to us. This is your ride. They will take you to your place, okay? I wasn't able to decipher this, but my mom nodded, so I decided we were fine. The man driving us called us to the car. The car was riding very nicely and gave us a tour of most of the city. The car took us to the bus stop. We stayed as a big group to make sure we were all getting to right places. Some were going to New York, others were going to Texas, but not us. We were going to San Francisco. I've heard it's a beautiful place and a big tourist city. As we get in line to load the bus, some man started speaking some different language. From what I've studied in school, I couldn't tell what it was, that it was English. My mother told us to nod our heads and walk by, and that's exactly what we did. As I found my seat on the bus, I could tell that there were a lot of people going to the same place as we were. The bus's engine started. A nice calmer, more relaxing than the last. Definitely nicer. Shivers rushed through my body. This was actually happening. The bus drove down the roads, through the cities, over the hills. My mother told me I was a big smile on my face, but how could I help it? We were hundreds and thousands of miles away from home that was filled with violence. As we opened the bus window, I could feel the breeze of the fresh air. I finally felt free as a bird soaring through the sky. Time went by, and we found ourselves in San Fran. I'm very grateful for my mother knew somewhat English because that we had been completely lost without her. From the airport, we took the cab through the beautiful city.
Once the man pulled into the building, he asked for money. Yet we didn't have any money. We had to leave it all behind in our house. I suddenly came to realization we didn't have anything except a bag in my hand. My mother, not sure what to do, ran with me and my sister to the house marked on our papers and said no looking back. I felt bad for leaving the car without praying, but knew there's no way to do so. While my mother opened the door, I took my little sister's hand and we pranced around till my mother told us to go in. As we stepped inside the apartment, we were stunned by the mess. My mother, with the same reaction, took us around the house trying to find our roommates that were said to be here. Instead, we found other children who yelled at me and my mother in a different language, which I guess was bad. My mother looked at them and